episode 51 of Strange Bräu Radio. I'm your host, Tobe Johnson, and today's guest is going to be Alex Witcombe, up north in the Great White North, the Canadian North. North of me about 3 hours. Well, he's farther than that. But we're going to have Alex on time to time, changing this from a strange brow to a strange brew a la Doug McKenzie. I don't know if that's too big of a deep pull for anybody under 44, but look it up. I'm sure you can IMDb it. But one thing you can't are these alchemy sound devices. Thank you again to our sponsor, Feral by Erin, E-R-Y-N, at the Etsy shop. Check it out. Also, the Manresa Castle in Port Townsend, Washington. A historic castle. Book a room now. Get your butt out to Manresa. All right. Be right back with our guest in a minute, Alex Witcombe in Canada. As I said, our guest today is Alex Witcombe, who I've come to appreciate as far as, well, not only as a person and an artist, he's a brilliant artist. His stories are very similar to everything, well, we've experienced. I don't know about you, but if you go back and listen to some of Alex's stories, there is a chance that perhaps there are some deep similarities between his case and your own, especially if you live in one of these skin twins, which I've talked about quite a bit lately. But this is a year in summation, a year in review, and it's okay. We tossed back a couple. We sat up here in the confines of our own little mutual establishment, me down in Washington, him up north in Canada, and did a little beer review scene and let the chips fall where they may. So relax, enjoy yourself as you perhaps toss back your own version of whatever ails you. So without further ado, let's join Alex and myself as we slide on in to 2020. All right, I'm here with Alex Witcombe. Thanks for being on the line with me today, Alex. Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you, Tobe. Good to be on.
All right, take 3. All right, so Alex wanted to join me. He was nice enough to join me after I asked him to come on the line here, and it's been a matter of time, I guess, for me to find somebody that I wanted to have join the show, and so Alex is going to be the first voice here that I really want to have a part of this show here. And we don't really know the format of how this is going to work. Alex, you've got your own full-time job as a craftsman up in Canada, but in between your jobs, maybe late at night as a segment or wherever this will point to, if we can work it out in our schedule, I'd love to have you as a contributor. So I appreciate you doing that, man.
I'm stoked. To be frank, I'm honored. I really am. Like, no, I've been diving into paranormal podcasts for the last 3 years, and it has become like almost an integral part of my life. It's given me new things to think about, new people to connect with, and like I just think it's so cool that you asked me. It's awesome.
And just so people know, Alex has he's been on a couple of more well-known shows than mine for sure, and I think that's how I heard about you, is through word of mouth or through just straight up listening to some of your episodes that you'd been on, including Where Did the Road Go and Strange Familiars. But like I told you the other day, if I had a long lost twin brother that was experiencing all of this strangeness, it's you, for better or worse. I chose I chose you to point out and say,
Just don't call me a skin twin, man. That's gonna get creepy.
That sounds like a magazine that you'd be guilty at looking at.
Totally.
Do not pick up a magazine
Yeah.
of skin twins, in the June issue especially. You can
Oh
see.
yeah, no, yeah. I mean, you and I have kind of gone through a lot of the same stuff, right?
Yeah, and me more recently than you. I mean, I'm not a lifelong
Yeah,
experiencer of this stuff. I really kind of chased this stuff down until it happened to me. I call myself an ambulance chaser, and I
right.
finally got to the scene of something I couldn't look away from. And now my life, people are kind of ambulance chasing my story, and I get it. I mean, I understand why they do it. It's a total adrenaline rush, and it changes your perspective from small to large. So it's
Yeah,
nice. It's nice to hang out with people that get this kind of stuff, and
it
you
is.
know,
Yeah, totally,
right?
totally.
Because
Yeah,
I mean,
and
we have family, right? I mean, I do. Certainly, people close to us that just can't take another UFO or Bigfoot story, and
no,
you know,
no,
we
or
got
can't
to
even take one of them. They don't even
right,
take one of them.
right,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, for people that don't know your story, there. Well, before we do that, I mean, let me be frank. The name of the show is Strange Brow for a reason. It was conceived in a little bar up the McKenzie River in outside of Springfield, Oregon, in the town of Leesburg, Oregon, at a place called Ike's Pizza. And it was there after really my initial first Bigfoot outing with a river guide that we stopped into this pizza parlor to get a pizza and some beer. And that's where the Strange Brow really came from, was meeting a Bigfoot witness behind the cash register at Ike's Pizza, a guy by the name of John Clinton, who saw a Sasquatch face to face somewhere in NorCal. I think he said he was probably about less than 16 inches from the face of a Sasquatch, and he was following like a size 22 down the embankment, seeing where it led. So he had a really impressive encounter, and but it began in a bar. And I have German heritage, and whether or not we're going to say that I'm wrong for saying the word strange brow instead of strange bra. I didn't want to name it after strange braziers, so I thought the English vernacular would probably be better. So this was a podcast conceived in a bar. It's always been that way. Every time I've done a live event, it's been on or near a pub, and it helps relax the mood for things that are usually kind of hard to talk about for a lot of people, because believe it or not, there is a sense of drama to being a witness. But you know we can't always take these things so seriously to the point where they drive us bonkers. And so tonight, Alex and I decided that we would bring the brow out of the house here, and we
Bringing
picked
the
some
brow back.
right. We picked some fine ales. Now, you being a man from Canada are going to have a different ale compared to than what I will have. I'm not sure what kind of beer guy you are, but I thought we would just take a moment here to talk about our initial brew choices here before we go down the rabbit hole. So what do you have lined up
Yeah.
as your first ale?
Okay.
Let's start with ale number one.
Well, actually, let's start with the brewery,
Mm-hmm.
because as a driftwood artist, I thought it was very appropriate that as I should walk into my very limited small island store in terms of ale selection, the ones that would pop out to me were Driftwood Brewery. So being a driftwood artist, I was like, yes, that's perfect. So I chose 3 from Driftwood Brewery. The first I am looking at is Arcus Pilsner.
Okay. Now, what is it about a
Yeah.
Pilsner you like so much? Did you pick it because
Oh,
that's you're a fan of Pilsners, or did it have a
I
killer?
am. I am.
Yeah.
No, I'm a definite fan of Pilsners. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. My go-to beers are Pilsners or light, crisp, like flavorful lagers, or sour beers. I got into sour beers
Hmm.
probably 4 years ago. Oh my God, a game changer there. So yeah, but yeah, definitely go to our Pilsners for sure.
And had you had this craft before?
I have not.
Okay,
I
new
just
experience.
took my first sip. That is good.
All right, describe what you're
Oh,
drinking.
all right.
Are you let down? Are you brought up? Is it taking you back to specific memories? Is it, how taste and smells can do that? Tell us what
I'm
your
being
experience is.
shot with a with a barley arrow through the heart here. Oh, nice, nice. Arcus is actually the Roman goddess of archery. So yeah,
Okay.
this is damn good. Yeah, for a pilsner, it's like really fruity. Got some sweet, like not sweet in sweet, but like awesome like citrus uh, overtones there. Yeah, very nice. I would drink this again for sure.
Fantastic. Now, what's the name of it again?
Arcus Pilsner by Driftwood Brewery.
I wonder if that's something we can
Mm.
get locally here. Like I said, this may be something that it happens up north. And of course, having a Canadian on the line, being a fan of the McKinsey brothers and Strange Brew, the original
Yeah.
comedy, it only seemed right that a man in kokanee country would be here talking about ale.
I was originally thinking instead of just getting these three beers, just getting a 6-pack of kokanee and describing them each individually. But
Oh,
yeah,
Renee DeHinden
yeah.
would have been proud of you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What are you drinking?
Okay, so I have,
Have you bought your first one?
yeah, so I bought a 6-pack. It was a mix match 6-pack. You can fill up a little brown 6-pack container with any private ales you want here at the local Fred Meyer's. Do you guys have Fred Meyer's up there? You know what
No,
a
but I
Fred Meyer's
remember.
is? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I remember it from like commercials as a kid because we used to get like Washington programming coming in from
Okay.
on our TV. So yeah,
Yeah, Freddy's is like a upper crust Walmart, I guess you'd call it. It has
yeah,
clothing and beer and blah blah blah. So this is
yeah.
this one caught my eye. It's a local brew from Washington State here, made in Redmond, which is maybe about 30 minutes outside of Port Orchard, and it is Black Raven Brewing Company, and this
Ooh.
is quite appropriate here. The Trickster IPA. It's got a very pronounced raven on the front and a black and lime green can. So, in honor of the Trickster, there you go. We'll give this one a sip here. It is. It's good. It's an Indian pale ale. It's definitely now. I am not a beer connoisseur to the point where I know anything of what I'm talking about at all. I know that I don't like things that are over hoppy. I really am a
Yeah.
kokanee kind of guy or a PBR kind of guy. I can toss a few of those back, but I'm trying here, and this is a very hoppy beer. I've noticed more often than not that the ladies seem to like a more hoppy, darker beer, and
Huh.
so I don't know. Is that gender bias? What do you think about that theory?
I think we're gonna have to get more studies on that, more data, more
More
data.
dad? Okay, all right.
Yeah, yeah. I'll go out to the local pub and
Okay.
see. I'll get more data for us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I've noticed that, and so maybe as I drink a more hoppy beer, hear my voice change slowly. We'll see how that works because I've got a
Yeah.
couple here on the shelf. Cool. Well, and this is called Trickster, right? That's the brand that jumped out at me. And you know a thing or two about the Trickster, and so do I. I'm busily trying to put the last chapters of the Al Moon book together, and this is something that I have to touch on. But what do you think about the Trickster name as itself? Do you think it's an appropriate name for the type of phenomena that you've observed, or what's your opinion on that?
I think it is a very appropriate name. It what it doesn't there's no it doesn't do what you expect. Like you'll go out and interact with it, try to interact with it, the other, whatever you want to call it, and things will just throw you for loops, just loops. And there's often like, it's very hard to find like meaning in it, like in a bring it down to earth sense. And like, yeah, I mean, some of these things are just like, well, what the hell does this mean? And it's so loopy sometimes. It's so trickster. Yeah, I think it's a very, very, very appropriate. Yeah,
it's almost like it's time sensitive too. Like the tumblers inside the lock haven't quite figured themselves out yet. The time isn't right, so you can't really figure out what these things mean until a certain time. Do you agree with that?
I've had quite a few instances of that as well. Yeah, for sure. Where it's just like, okay, what the hell just happened?
Mm-hmm.
And then like later on, years and years down the road, an event, an encounter, an experience comes along, and it just like rolls right back to that experience and makes a little more sense. Doesn't make like perfect sense or anything like that. It just like makes a little more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Impossible Fly #2 was was one of those experiences. I mean, that what was that like? Oh hell, that was probably 10, 12 years after the fact, where I saw Impossible Fly #1, and then #2 comes along, and it's like, whoa. Yeah. So.
And let's see here. Now you can go back to. I'm on my website right now, and I'm trying to look up the episode that you actually talk about there, the Impossible Fly #1. That's episode 39. I don't have it queued up here when we were specifically talking about that, but if people want to hear Alex's story regarding Fly 1 and 2, episode 39, and there you will find it. And you probably talked about it on some other podcasts along the way.
Yeah.
So you've had stuff recently happen, and so have I. I guess what people should know, I don't mind telling them, I don't think you do, is that we kind of all keep in touch offline, usually via email or messenger, and generally it's just like checking in with weirdness on our property. And lately there's been definitely a few things around here. In fact, just about an hour ago after I got home, we have a giant piece of driftwood, which is interesting. And it's like an upside down letter L, and it's kind of stabbed inside of a punky stump. So it was facing the L part that was up in the air, was facing the cabin. We have these little private trails in the backyard. There's 5 acres here, so there's some trails. And I had it, the specific part of this driftwood pointed towards the house. It's about 6 feet up in the air. And it was kind of a semi-tight fit inside this punky log. You could twist it. But I wanted to see if something would move this. It almost looked like a real estate sign hanging off the trail, minus the for sale sign. And it had moved a good 30 degrees, pointed towards the cedar forest. Now, I don't have any explanation for that. It's not windy in the back area here enough to blow a piece of driftwood like this. Now, we've had other pieces of driftwood tossed about on the property as well. One time, Aaron came home and found a piece of driftwood in the front yard that was extremely heavy, probably, it looked like a surfboard, about as tall and as wide and as thick. And it had been thrown or moved a good 8 feet from its position out in the middle of the yard. There was a kiddie pool within the last month that was taken out from underneath my trailer and drug out to the middle of the yard a good 5 or 6 feet. And you've had stuff too. What do you mind telling folks the weirdness that's happened to you over the last month?
Yeah, well, on the driftwood note, so where I'm living at now is 23 acres. I'm renting a small cabin. Landlord lives on the property, and he's got a separate mobile home, 4-bedroom mobile home for his students. He's a bicycle mechanic, and he teaches international students how to fix bikes. So they usually reside in that mobile home, and they've been here for the past couple months since I've been here. But for the past week, nobody's been in the mobile home, and it's been locked. My landlord actually gave me a key. He's like, okay, yeah, we're going to lock it up now because no one's there. So he hasn't been in there. And I go in to do my laundry. And so I go in to do my laundry. I unlock the door. I throw my laundry in and kind of forgot about it for a day or so. And okay, well, I gotta go throw it in the dryer. When I come back in, unlock the door, and there's this chunk of driftwood sitting in front of the dryer right there. And I know it wasn't there because I'm a driftwood guy. I know driftwood. I see driftwood. I take notice of driftwood, and it was not there beforehand. So this is in a locked house, and it's just sitting right there. And it's not one of my pieces of driftwood either, because I know I'm a driftwood artist. I select my pieces of driftwood, right? I know every one of them, and this was not one of mine. So it was just sitting there in a locked house. Just showed up. Yeah. And I asked the landlord, and he's like, "Oh, I haven't been in there." Wait, we start talking about poltergeist stuff, and yeah. So that's one of them. I've had other weird stuff.
But what's cracking me up about this, Alex, is just how innocuous these things are as far as explaining it to people that don't have this phenomena going on. I mean, it sounds ridiculous that I'm talking about, kiddie pools and you're talking about pieces of driftwood. And
I know. Yeah. It's I come at it as I approach it with a very hey, you wouldn't happen to know how this piece of driftwood got in here. I don't start out oh my God, the poltergeists are active. There's a piece of driftwood. And, yeah. So yeah, it is from an outsider's perspective. It's just yeah. So must have been one of the other guys. No, you don't understand, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's things that I'm not even going to ever talk about on air because they're so wackadoodle, and they're just kind of they're almost weirdly private, and they sound so bizarro and maybe slightly offensive that I'd just be like, I just can't say that. I'm not ready. And I mean, you've gotten a couple of texts with me, including pictures like, you ever see this before? And you're like, no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
no. So,
yeah. And
um,
by the way, thank you for using that term, because that's my term, wackadoodle.
right.
That's my long. It's my long form for woo.
Okay.
So yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I use that term constantly.
we share 5 acres here with an old cowboy, and he's lived here on this particular plot of land as a renter. And then eventually there was a house or a cabin put in front of his rental house. And so the renter still is here, lives here, and then our house is on the property and he rents from us. But, he has some unusual habits here, which I thought were maybe a little bit indicative of him being a witness to the phenomena and being an old cowboy, maybe not willing to talk about it. So one of the things that would happen, because periodically I leave, if people think I'm not recording here, you got to be crazy, because when I recorded down at Cottage Grove, it was never, ever an issue with the phenomena. Whatever was going on, Sasquatch and all the other madness, did not mind us recording. And I don't think they particularly mind it here. Erin knows that she has the phenomena going on her property because she's an experiencer. She's had mushrooms tossed at her while she's out here feeding the horses, and found, braided manes and such. So there's reason alone to think that it's going on. And there's other witnesses down the road that get, giant rocks stuck inside their fence and things like that.
Ooh.
So the renter will come out kind of, religiously at 1:30 in the morning. And at first we didn't really know this was the renter, because what happened is usually around 1:29 to 1:31 in the morning, we'll hear this really rough, gruff sounding voice like our renter saying the words rat, rat. And he will scream out rat, rat in this rough, gravelly, cowboy voice.
How far away is he from you there?
Well, he's, I could probably throw a Frisbee pretty hard and he could catch it, kind of deal.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's probably maybe 55 yards up the driveway, and he's facing us though. So when he stands out on his balcony and he, is calling for his 2 dogs, Mutt and Jeff, you'll definitely hear that. But something that sounded like him at 1:30 in the morning was screaming the words rat, 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 rat. Yeah. So finally, I worked up the courage when I was mowing his front section of his yard. I said, hey, you wouldn't be happening to getting up at 1:30 in the morning and screaming the words rat, rat, would you? And he kind of looked at me and was like, he took a beat, and he said, yeah, I do that once in a while. I've got a feral cat, and I call him and bring him inside or feed him when it's cold. And I thought, okay, well, the cat's name is Roscoe, right? It's not Rat Rat. So I was like, I don't know, man. I mean, maybe it is him, right? And a couple times I confirmed the fact that indeed he does stand out there at 1:30 in the morning and call Rat Rat. Like he wasn't lying.
Yeah.
He definitely does that. However, I've recorded a couple times this renter's voice in our backyard saying the word cookie. And it's definitely someone up close to the microphone using his voice saying the word cookie. And it sounds just like the Cookie Monster, right? Like, a gravelly, it sounds like, Sesame Street episode. And the only person that yells cookie out here is when we're on one of our little nature walks with the pugs. And one of their rewards is they get a cookie, at the end of their walk. So something sound like it was accessing, using, mimicking this renter's voice, yelling cookie. And I don't know. Do you have any similar stories like that?
Heck yeah. Hope for sure. When me and my friend went out into Hope and had all our crazy, bizarre experiences.
Mhm.
I was in camp. He was 300 feet away, and he broke one of our rules for being out there is no whoop whoops, hollering, or wood knocks. And he does some whoops, and within minutes, shit went down. He ended up getting chased, but one of the things was, like pretty much right after that, I don't know, a couple minutes, he heard my voice 30 feet away from him, but I'm like 350 feet away in camp. I'm sitting by the fire, right? But he heard my voice right there saying, over here, or something like that. And he was specifically like, because he heard this chatter that we've been hearing, he heard it like 15 feet away after he did the whoops. He's like, oh man, he turns around. He's like, oh, I got to go tell Alex.
Mhm.
And then like 30 feet away, he hears my voice. So he runs toward there. And that's when the shit really started to happen. So yeah, this mimicry is, it's so interesting. It's so interesting. Oh man. Yeah. So that's my experience with the whole mimicry thing.
Yeah, and I don't know of a single case of anybody witnessing mimicry happen. I interviewed a young kid actually. If anybody wants to go on my Facebook page under Strange Brow Radio, you'll see a link to the first Bigfoot and beer we did with Finding Bigfoot, episode 1. And one of the first witnesses to stand up in the town hall at Ike's Pizza was a young witness named Eric. And Eric tells this incredible story about standing out front of his trailer, waiting with his sister for the school bus to arrive. And it must have been about 7 in the morning or something like that. And he hears a turkey. And he's certain, there's turkeys around there, that there is a turkey in the bush getting ready to walk out of the brush. And him and his sister watch a Sasquatch walk across the road doing a turkey call. And it just walking right in front of them, doing a turkey sound. It walks over the fence in front of like one of the little Airbnb resorts that they had on the McKinsey, walks through the Christmas tree farm area. And they both hop on the school bus and don't say a word until
say a word.
Yeah. So I had a chance to go back to the spot with him and kind of do a recreation of events and talk to his mom. And she was utterly convinced that this was a child that doesn't make up anything, and let alone his sister with him. But I mean, and the sounds of nature are one thing, and we can do that. But as far as like doing the whole Mina bird routine, it's pretty
mechanical noises.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you know about those?
Well, again, hope. I'm convinced that all of those bashes, crashes, bangs, the whole quote unquote train crash, whatever the heck that was, the metallic grinding noises that was going on after I got Colin back to camp. I'm so convinced that was not actual like train people out there doing work on the railroad or whatever. It was no. Like you
were way out there too, Alex. For this sound to exist where you were was an impossibility.
Well, it wasn't an impossibility. Yes, okay, there could have been a train accident. There could have been workers coming up and grinding the rails or whatever. But you can literally like see the train tracks. It's 300 feet. There's a few trees in the way. any light, like you could see the trains going by, right? You can see the lights. I was looking, like when those grinding noises were happening, I could not see anything. There was like no lights whatsoever. And oh wow. And then like when I finally went to bed, within hitting, hitting my head to the pillow,
Mm-hmm.
the duck chatter started up again, and then the grinding noise, and this was like upriver where the train tracks weren't.
Mm-hmm.
And then these bashes, crashes, bangs were happening all around. Like they weren't happening over at the train track. They were like happening to the left, to the right, to the, like, all around me. So it's that convinced me that no, these aren't that wasn't actual physical noises being created by humans.
Right.
Especially like prior to each of those noise events,
Mm-hmm.
I heard the duck chatter. So it was like, we're on the market, and then the noise would start. So yeah.
That's a really good impression.
I've been working on it.
I don't know if it reminds me of a duck as much as it reminds me of some Android Star Wars kind of noise that it reminds me of.
Yeah. Later
Mm-hmm.
on, I was like, oh my God, that sounds like the goblin alien
Mm-hmm.
from Rick and Morty. I don't know if you watched that, but
yeah. The mechanical sounds were also, well, I shouldn't call this a mechanical sound. One of the sounds that I never really talked about or had a chance to really focus on or even play for anybody, but I will, coming up with this book, focus in on it, is this rolling granite on granite or sliding of rock on rock sound. And I wish I had some of it queued up right now. I could do it here. If we go to break, I'll try to queue up some of this. But it sounded like Bela Lugosi rising from his tomb. It had that really creepy, like a hollow granite tomb sliding open, but maybe rolling once in a while. And we could never pinpoint where that was coming from. And I'd never found anybody else who had heard a sound like this. Now, why do I think it was supernatural or paranormal or an EVP? Well, because on one occasion I actually heard it with my own ears. I didn't record it. I was sleeping in the backyard where the T-post had been bent, and we knew that most likely Sasquatch, more than one, I think, was coming in and off of Daryl's property. And I would lay out in a zero gravity chair, just waiting with headphones on for mainly the dogs to erupt in the valley. And then I heard it, and I knew that it was something I'd heard on recorder only, but I tried to pinpoint where that could have possibly come from, and it just made no sense. If I were to actually kind of maybe guess where that sound was coming from, which is even kookier, was in the shop, the metal shop, that there was something behind me in this giant 18-foot tall metal shop, opening and closing. And it wasn't anything in the inventory, that's for sure. But, we had recorded all sorts of sounds out there.
You run through the inventory, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm always like, when I experience these things, I'm like, okay, let's go for the rational explanation first. Let's run through the inventory here. What do we got? Okay, it could be this. It could be that. It could be this. And then, like, sooner or later, you run out of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, okay, I guess the only other explanation.
Mm-hmm.
That happened with the shower curtain the other day, the shower rung. I had just been I've been working my ass off in December trying to get all these Christmas commissions done, and finally got them done. And I treated myself. I'm like, okay, I'm going to treat myself to a nice long shower. It's like the day after I got the last commission done. I go in the shower. I'm just like, I'm just like letting it all go, right? Letting it all go. And so I'm in there for about probably 8 to 10 minutes, and I'm just letting the water just like scroll down the back of my neck, enjoying it. And then one of the plastic shower rungs just like flings itself at my feet. I don't see this. I'm looking down, and it just like right in front of my feet. I'm like, what the hell? So I look up, and yeah, okay, these shower rungs can come off every once in a while, but they don't come, like they either stay on the shower rod or the shower curtain, and they don't fall off like 10 minutes into the shower. So I spent the next 5 minutes in the shower trying to like recreate this, right?
Right.
I'm just like, so I'm trying to like recreate this, and I'm like balancing it. Okay, well, if it was balanced just right, no, it would just stay there. It would just stay there. And I could not do it. I could not recreate this. So that kind of, and even if it fell down, straight down, like from where it was, it would have landed behind my feet, not in front of my feet. So
Right.
I'm chalking that one up to a non-rational explanation.
Okay. Let's I want to switch it up here and ask you what you think the biggest bullshit report is, as far as maybe either getting much ado about nothing, or everybody thinks it's BS. Which one really blows your mind that it got any attention at all, but you think is just utter crap?
Biggest bullshit report?
Yeah. Like what?
Oh man, the one that sticks out. I constantly go back to Blinky, man.
Okay.
Standing and
Sylvanic.
Todd Standing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just looked at that. And I'm like, no, come on, man.
Fraggle Rock material. I think you said it was like right.
Yeah, what do they call it? An Eskimo Muppet or something? Like it, yeah, I don't know.
Right.
That to me just reeks full.
I mean, it'd be really awkward as if it wasn't, and there was actually a variety of Fraggle Rock Eskimo squatches out there. That'd be a really interesting angle. I mean,
that would be a very interesting. Yes, it would.
I mean, after the 2 years I've had, I don't know what to say anymore.
Well, I've never actually seen one, have you?
No.
But yeah. To me, the whole blinking video thing, it just no.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to.
I don't question that. I mean, I'm sure Todd has had some experiences, but I think it's kind of a stand-alone thing with him. He's had some experiences, and now he's just churning out, trying to keep the ball rolling.
Right.
But,
I mean, it's kind of, chasing the dragon. I think legitimately, typically guys, they have these legitimate encounters or sightings, and they chase the dragon of the phenomena, and they get to a point just like, well, how much do I really want to prove this, show this, that I'm capable of hunting down this mystery? I think it gets to that point, and I don't know anything beyond that about him. I can make a few guesses. There was a guy on. Here's my biggest bullshit encounter story was.
Go for it. Yeah.
I'm gonna say part 2 of Mel Waters' Mel's Hole story. Now, if anybody knows Mel Waters, then they'll know the story I'm about to tell. Do you know the story of Mel's Hole, Alex?
I don't.
Oh my goodness.
Mel's Hole with the deep hole.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
I do.
Part one,
Our
right,
first
was
novel.
if anybody doesn't know, you can look it up on YouTube. Just type in Mel's Hole, Hole, not Whole. And it's about a guy that calls in Art Bell circa like 1998 or something like that. And he tells this incredible story about living near Ellensburg, Washington. And I think it's called the Hammond Stash Ridge. And he buys this property and finds that there's this giant hole that he's also bought along with his property. And it's been known for years that people can basically throw anything they want, even garbage, whatever, and drop it down this endless hole. And it just kind of became this known dumping ground. Well, it goes on from there and Mel ends up losing his house due to like Men in Black scenario. The satellites basically blot out any existence of his house during the Microsoft, Terra Map situation back in the early 90s before Google Maps. Anyway, after he loses his first hole, he finds these group of Basque Indians in the Nevada area that befriend him and learn about his interview on Art Bell. And they say, hey, we have a hole too. And so this is the part that I had trouble with, is that nobody's heard this, you gotta just fast forward all your
Hole
woes and
number 2.
go to hole number 2. And there comes
Yeah.
a part where Mel Waters drops him and the Basque Indians knock out a goat, right? They use a goat as basically a testing object to see what would happen if you lowered something living down this other giant hole that had these mysterious qualities, like it would shoot a giant black beam out of it that was the opposite of a light beam, like there would be a black beam that would shoot out of the hole, and all these other interesting things. So they knock out a goat, they put it in a wooden crate, and they drop it down the hole. And they bring the goat back up, and the goat is kind of groggy because it just got bonked in the head, first of all, and now it's been lowered in this weird hole. And the Basque Indians decide that they're going to put it out of its misery. And so I think that they do that, and then they open up the goat, and they find inside the goat a giant tumor. And this tumor has something attached to it. Like all of a sudden, this goat has been infected with some kind of cancerous tumor that is lengthwise as long as it is wide inside the belly of this goat. I don't know why they excised it so quickly or how they found out, but they're all doing this on scene, and Mel is telling this story on air. What it gets better. At one point, he says that the tumor has a baby seal attached to the tumor. Now he describes it as a seal, like
baby
like a
seal.
yeah, like a little sea lion that is kind of like in its like in a little pupa state, right? Like a little baby seal. And he says this thing's squirming outside of the tumor, trying to get away. So the Basque Indians and him pick it up and they put it on a picnic table. And the thing looks up at them with knowing eyes, human knowing eyes, and it's studying them. And Mel grabs the seal and puts it on the edge of the hole, and the thing drops down into the hole and disappears. And that was just a bridge too far for me.
And there goes your evidence.
Right. Yeah. So that one for me, although I love the story, and I love Todd's standing story too. They're, these are incredible stories, and here I'm telling, incredible story. You're telling incredible story. We're asking people to believe in our baby seals, our Fraggle Rocks, and I'm telling you, it's making me harder. It's making me way harder to be an asshole. It's I have to double down on my efforts.
Well, I actually got called out on Where Did the Road Go for being a red flag story. I think it was Ran Collier was on. I think Joshua Cutchin and Soraya asked, like, okay, out of all the stories you've ever heard, what's your red flag story? And Ren goes, yeah, it was that the guy who had, him and his buddy were out in that Hope, and he got chased and blah blah blah. And then he says, and the first telling, it was like, oh no, this is just like way too, no, it's way too dramatic, it's way too over the top. And but then the one thing he noted was that we went into the shop of Jason Horsley's wife, so the thrift store there. And he's like, when I heard the story retold on Strange Familiars, I caught that it was Jason Horsley's wife who owns a thrift store in town. And then all of a sudden, that thing just went full-blown Keelian. And like, okay, yeah, it went from red flag to like, okay, yeah, this is, whoa. So, yeah, I understand being called out on like bullshit story. Nope. Did I lose you? You there?
Are you there now?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, sorry about that. No, I didn't unmute myself. So wait a second. I was listening to everything you said here, but I just had it muted.
Yeah.
You're saying while you were on the air, you were on with another guest, and did they call you out while you were on with them as being?
No, I wasn't on the air. I actually sent my story in to Where Did the Road Go?
Gotcha.
And they read them on air.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I did a subsequent like live interview with Tim Renner.
Okay.
And that's where it kind of shifted for them, because I threw in this last minute detail. I didn't even think it was a detail like Jason Horsley. Like, I just threw that in there, and Tim Renner didn't know who he was, and I barely knew who Jason Horsley was, but Joshua Cutchin and Ren Collier were like, oh yeah, you don't know Jason Horsley? Oh, like, holy shit, man. Like, okay, this went from like, okay, this is this is legit now.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've dealt with that a little bit myself. There's been a couple people that have really taken me to the woodshed in their own little trollish way, but for the most part, the last interview that I did with our anonymous guest Sarah, the most response I got from that interview, and I expected it, and so did she. I will tell people that there were some attributes of what she was describing that when you talk to, extended experiencers long enough, there's certain things that they focus in on that may not seem like a big deal. But once you get talking to enough people, you tend to go, okay, they gain credibility when they start focusing in on these nuances. And she was doing that with me. That's why I put her on the air there. So anyway, I haven't heard back from Sarah in a while yet. We'll see what becomes of interview number 2. I don't know anything more about the property. I know that there's some videos and some pictures that I've been privy to. We spoke a little bit about the levitation picture where she was describing being kind of moved and levitated. All I can tell you, anybody listening, about the idea of levitating or floating or moving up off the surface and suddenly becoming allergic to gravity, that there is something to that. There is something to that. That's all I'll say. These things happen, and it's hard for people to wrap their mind around them when they don't happen to them, because they feel like they, even the most woo flute playery type, when they don't have those kind of experiences, they feel a little bit like, well, if I can't do it, how in the world can this crackpot do it? And it's just like, well, you don't choose how this stuff works.
Yeah. And that's the whole trickster element right there, is just, it's so random. it seems so random. Like, well, why did this happen to me? You know?
Right.
I have no idea why,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the whole alien, you know, bedroom visitor thing happened to me. I really don't know. And I still don't know.
Right.
You know, maybe I'll never know, but I don't know. and some people are so like, oh, you know, they're just be like, oh my God, you know, I'd kill for that experience. I'm like, be careful what you wish for, man.
Right.
Like, it's not a pleasant thing. It's certainly life changing, and it certainly opens your eyes up and widens your perspective. But it's wow, yeah, it's not for the faint of heart, for sure.
Well, let's pause for the cause here. I know that we've got a couple. I've got one more ale that I wanted to review, and then I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your place in the show here and what we want to accomplish when you're on here. So we will be right back with my good Canadian friend Alex Witcombe. Don't go anywhere. Well, as I said, coming up on January 4th, 2020, at the historic and most likely haunted Manresa Castle, from 7 to 10, or maybe later, we will be doing our Podcastle Live. So what is that? Well, it's a free event where I interview a witness of my choice, an experiencer of my choice. In this case, the talented and lovely and experienced paranormal researcher, that is, Mary Bethune, will be live on stage with me, and you could be nestled in. There's actually 2 fireplaces that you could nestle around. There's nestling and a lot of nestling involved at Manresa Castle. So come nestle. If you'd like to find out more, well, God bless you. You can do that at strangebrowradio.com, and you can find out more. There's a link to our Podcastle Live, where to go, and how to be plugged in. But let's say, well, I live in Berlin, Germany. I cannot make it. Or I live in Australia. I can't make it. These accents will come and go at my own will. You can't make it, but you still want to watch the show. Well, you know, you can sign up for patreon.com/strangebrowradio. And when we do our Podcastle Live, which will be every other month, and I'm sure we'll offer more than that, it's your chance to watch the show, because that's where we put those live feed links and the recorded links to such events. Not always, but for our Podcastle Live we do. So it's a lot of fun. It helps support the show, and it spreads the word about an important spot, Manresa Castle in Port Townsend, Washington. They've got a fantastic bar. Like, if they got really good specialty drinks, not joking around. I myself just like a pint of Guinness, but if that's your thing, then come order your thing. They got a good menu. They got fantastic tapas plates. We got the pork belly. And maybe you're a vegetarian. You don't want pork belly. Well, they've got vegetarian options as well. If not, there's a grocery store across the parking lot. Help yourself. Then come on back and have a good time. Again, that's January 4th, 2020 at the historic Manresa Castle in Port Townsend, Washington. Every other month, January, March, May, July, and probably September, definitely October. There's a huge Halloween party. So look it up. It's where we are when we do our live events right now. And I'd love to meet some of you and have a feeling we'll have a good time together. All right. Now back to our show. All right. We are back again with my good friend Alex. And I have chosen a lighter beer here. You said that you picked out a Pilsner, correct?
I did.
Okay.
All gone now.
All right, so that's what...
what do you got?
That's what I picked out. I picked out something by Rogue Ale, and Rogue is out of Newport, Oregon, I believe. They're known best for their brand Dead Guy, but it's a strong hoppy mix. And so this is a Pilsner brewed with Oregon spruce tips. It is their Yellow Snow Pilsner. It is. It's got a picture of a Labrador Retriever peeing on a yellow bank of snow, and it is their Yellow Snow mix. So we'll give this one a try here. Oh my goodness, not a fan. Wow, you drink that all? You drink that all the time?
Well, I don't drink Yellow Snow all the time, man.
Oh my goodness, that definitely has. It has the taste of asparagus. Let's put it that way.
Oh, okay. Wow.
It definitely has the spruce tip. It has the frothy spruce tip. That it. Let me try it now. Let me be fair here. Let me do one more sip here. I will. I don't want to lose a Rogue sponsorship. So if that's a possibility here, maybe let's go for number 2.
Yeah. Second sip there.
Boy, I don't know. After having a Bud Light, I just would prefer something a little bit more down the middle of the road. So that one, I would not buy a 6-pack of that. Again.
So here's the question. Are you going to smell asparagus when you pee?
Oh my gosh, I'm going to smell like the produce department. All right, what do you got?
All right. My next is called Naughty Hildegard.
Okay.
And this is actually named after, what is that? I guess that would be 11th century nun.
Okay.
Hildegard. Yeah. And I don't know why they named her Naughty, though. Because apparently Hildegard was quite the nun. Renaissance before Renaissance. Yeah, and apparently she was one of the first to discover that hops actually preserved beer and produced the desired effects like calmness and yeah.
Wow. Okay. A lot of detail there.
Yeah. Hildegard von Bingen.
Oh no! Yeah, I think I can help you with that. I think it's Hildegard von Bingen.
Yeah, Bingen.
Yeah. And
Benedictine abbess. Yeah.
Right, and I think she was. She actually. There's music out related to her. I've heard it before.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I have not heard the music, but apparently she's quite the thing. I would not know of her had I not picked up this beer. And this is from Driftwood Brewery from Victoria. I got to say the art is amazing on these cans. Whoever the graphic designer is just knock it out of the park.
Okay.
And the beer is really good too.
And again, this is you've had this ale before.
No, I have not. No.
Okay.
I picked it up.
All right.
Yeah, so Naughty Hildegard, extra special bitter. There we go.
All right. What do you rate it?
I could have two of these.
Okay. Would you would you get a pint of it? Is the question.
I would definitely get a pint of it.
Okay.
Oh yeah. It is very hoppy because obviously Hildegard is she's a hopster, so it is very hoppy. But it's totally balanced with lots of really nice fruit. Yeah. I'll send you one down in the package.
Okay.
Some stuff. Yeah, I'll grab one for you.
Perfect. Well, okay, let's talk a little bit about Alex in the future, and
Well, hang on. Wait.
Okay. All
I
right.
got something that I want to bring up something because
Okay.
the turkey Sasquatch
Okay.
brought something up for me. Where you said, yeah, this was like one of the encounters that people were actually witnessing mimicry. With the pops, the bangs, the knocks that you experience, you've never witnessed those, have you?
Okay. So we've never saw a piece of wood slam into a piece of wood. We never saw the magnet balls that we had laid out flat on the garage floor and the seams of this, cement floor collide together and make that really distinctive sizzle magnet sound. We never saw the gravel moved as something cloaked and walked past us in the gravel. That is true.
Yeah. Okay. When you talked about the turkey Sasquatch there, Turk Squatch, it reminded me of a time where I saw a pop. This was after the Hope experience, and I think this was actually directly after Colin and I were sitting around the campfire one night, and we both saw a shadow move across the house in front of a lit window and then disappear off the side of the house. And the day after, I was emailing my friend, and I was sitting down at the kitchen table, and I was emailing my friend about the experience. And the headlamp that I had given Colin during the Hope experience was sitting on the kitchen table, I don't know, like 3 feet away from me on the corner.
Mm-hmm.
As I was emailing my friend about this shadow being, I hear a pop bang, not a pop bang, but a push. And it had a pop quality, but it was also a bang. And I look like right up from my iPad, and I see my headlamp 8 inches above the table and then come back down again. So my headlamp had actually like popped off the table 8 inches and rocketed back down again. So I've actually like seen this like pop experience.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if it's
did you
related
see?
to
Did you see the
Sasquatch,
actual? You saw the headlamp like fall and move at the same moment? You saw the whole act happen?
I didn't see it rise.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it mid-rise.
Right.
Because it was just like bang, pop.
Right.
And that obviously like drew my attention, and I look, and it's in midair, and it goes up a bit and then slaps back down to the table. And obviously I'm like thinking rationally, and I'm like, okay, well, check it. Maybe it's the batteries that exploded or something, but it was absolutely fine.
I think the closest we ever came to that was, and I was just writing about this, so it's fresh in my mind. The closest we ever came to that was a moment where Daryl and I were listening and watching for sounds on my laptop in this shop of his, where it was kind of the epicenter of things, and we had the 18-foot tall bay doors closed, and my Jeep was parked outside with the trunk open. And as I had my headphones on and was listening to sounds, I think Daryl was surfing the web, and he turned his head real quickly to the left, and I saw that he had heard something. So I said, "What's up?" And he goes, "Didn't you hear that?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "There's a really loud pop, like a big one." And I said, "Okay, well, maybe because it's a metal shop, right? Heat expands and contracts,
I know,
and it's summer." And I was like, once in a while we heard those sounds, but he goes, "We knew those sounds were totally different because they were not nearly as loud and disorienting as these other sounds.
Yeah.
So I trusted him, but I didn't know what to do with it. And I knew that we had a shit ton of audio we had to get through. And so I'm listening away, blah, blah, blah. I think I'm only there for 24 hours, maybe max, before I have to head back to Washington. And so his neighbor, Rin, shows up. And Rin is he's a really cool dude. He's new on the scene to Cottage Grove. He just happened to show up at one of our live events. He used to be in a really big rock and roll band, and he's been there, done that kind of dude, probably in his early 30s. And he happened to live less than a mile from Daryl. Well, Ren also worked for Lloyd Pye and also worked for oh gosh, what's the guy, Cryptomundo, out on the East Coast, with a big beard that has the Cryptozoology Museum. Anyway, he worked for both these cats, so he's extremely interested in the paranormal, and so he's a perfect fit to be Daryl's neighbor. And we're like, dude, you got to swing by sometime. Well, he pulls into the gravel drive right after Daryl hears this pop sound. And if anybody's listened to the story here, they've heard me talk about these objects of significance that show up. They're not just random objects for the most part. They're like related to something you've talked about or something unique that you've thought about. And so getting back to my Jeep, it's parked right outside. It's outside of the preview of where we're sitting in this locked garage. The trunk's wide open. Well, I'm pretty, I'm tidy. We'll put it that way. I like to have things in a certain order. And, I want to keep my Jeep nice. So I have this World War II olive drab wool blanket that I usually just kind of lay out in a rectangle in the trunk when I set, boxes or my boots out there. And it's just laying out there flat because I have all the stuff brought out of the trunk inside the garage. So as Ren's pulling up to the drive, basically to hang out for the first time, we walk out of the garage port to meet him. And as I'm walking out to say hi to the guy, Daryl's behind me, and I look to my left and I see something on this olive drab blanket. And it is a World War II rusted trench can opener sitting in the middle of the
right.
blanket. Yeah.
Right.
So I immediately, told Daryl, I said, I got my camera out, immediately started filming Daryl's reaction to what was happening. It all came flooding back to me what the sound was. Something, somehow, some way had married an object to its home base, right? A World War II match of some kind. And so that was the only time that I ever remember hearing a sound that was indicative of an apport occurring. So they're extremely quick. I mean, that's the only way to put it. Just like whatever happened was so quick that you couldn't really put any of it together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my pop story.
Well, we'll have more pop stories. Sure.
This episode of Apports brought to you by Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Again, I'm drinking yellow snow, so anything I say at this point here is,
you can just put that one down and go on to the
next. we need to name this like Strange Bräu After Dark, just so people know that we're not accountable. Right. Oh well. So my hope is that you would come to the show with your own unique take on things, which I know you're doing, each and every time you go on any podcast. But you have some really unique cases going on up north that, nobody really knows about. I mean, all we really know about the paranormal connected to Canada is what we've heard from David Paulides and the Highway of Tears, and of course Todd Standing, and but I mean, there's a lot going on there, and you're kind of
I
connected.
rarely hear, I soak up paranormal podcasts. Like I eat them up, but I rarely hear like Canadian content. So I'm all into that, man. And man, since I've holy cow, like in the past 2 years, I've soaked up so many stories.
Mm-hmm.
I got so many contacts, and I'm just like, I'm ready to like get this going. You
Yeah.
know? Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
maybe what we can do is, we can work in some of these stories and cases, or investigations that Alex is working on, and is there anything that comes to mind right now that you think that would pull the Western and global audience uh, towards the speaker a little bit more? What have you heard lately?
What have I heard lately?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, I have heard the best Sasquatch story I've ever heard since I got to Quadra Island. And it was very interesting because it is in direct connection with the Sasquatch that I actually built on Quadra Island out of driftwood. But holy cow, that one just like shivers up, absolute shivers, what the guy was telling me. As well, like I've recently connected with a friend, and we became best friends. And she has the most amazing stories about a possible like skin twin town in Canada. She called it the Black Mountain. She lived under the Black Mountain. Yeah, shadow beings, strange things in the woods, dogs, big black dogs, all sorts of shit. So yeah, I got a lot.
Well, are these people that
It's a lot to go through.
are they willing to go on the record, Alex?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are. Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
you've been thinking of
I've asked them.
you've been thinking of doing a live event too, right? Like meeting up at a
Yeah,
local
totally.
brew house.
Totally. We've got the Harriet Bay Inn here on Quadra Island. It's reportedly very haunted, and I've heard firsthand stories of some really weird shit happening there. And this is from good, trusted friends. And I know they do paranormal events there, like ghost investigations. I'm not down with that. I am totally down with just sitting in the pub and listening to people's stories. So yeah, I'd like to get that going as maybe once or twice a month. It's a pretty small population on Quadra here, so I don't know how many stories I can get, but it just sounds like good fun anyways. And just a good chance to meet people, and hear some great stories, and hear some cool encounters. I know people have got them. They just, they don't have an avenue. So I'd love to have a platform for people to share those stories, because I know how hard it is to find a platform to tell them, especially like a non-judgmental, open platform.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, describe Quadra Island, because it sounds like a mythical realm, and Lord of the Rings.
It is. It's a total mythical realm. It's absolutely mythical. I love it here. For one, it's kind of driftwood Sasquatch. So there you go.
Yeah.
Quadra Island. It's not a small island compared to Vancouver Island, but it's just off the east coast of, I guess, Midway up Vancouver Island, just off of Campbell River. It's part of quite a few set of coastal islands here. It's fantastic. Like literally drifted over here. In May, I got rid of 95% of my shit. I just said, screw it. I don't care where I end up. And I was in Oyster River. This is south of Campbell River at the time. I don't care where I end up. And I ended up here and like found a great community. I'm just totally jiving with everybody. And there are some quirky folks just like me. There's a lot of characters. There's a lot of characters here, and I just love it. Yeah, it's a great community. It's a great place to be, and absolutely beautiful. I spent the whole summer watching whales on the beach. Like every morning, I'd just like go down with my coffee and just watch humpback whales. Like, come on, really?
Yeah.
Mythical place. I will describe it as a mythical place.
It sounds mythical. You have humpback whales. Do you have killer whales?
Yeah. Killer whales, orcas, all the wildlife. Yeah. And some weirder stuff as well.
Yeah. We have orca whales out here too. I haven't seen them yet. I maybe just miss them. I catch the ferry once in a while to transit between the Kitsap Peninsula and Seattle, but apparently they're out here, and I mean, they're incredible animals. I look forward to seeing them out in the wild because they in themselves are very mythical. I don't even know if there's a reported case of a killer whale hurting another human. I don't know one.
Only in captivity.
Okay.
Only in captivity, and I totally understand that.
Yeah, that's justified.
You can't put in. That's totally justified. Yeah.
What is that documentary?
In the wild. In the wild, absolutely no documented cases of a killer whale killing a human.
Right. I think that documentary is called Black Fin. It kind of moves SeaWorld into getting rid of their orca whales in captivity. Let me ask you about this documentary, Hellier. Have you watched any Hellier Part 1 or 2?
I did watch Part 1. I haven't gotten to Part 2 yet, but I've heard some things.
Okay.
Part 2. So
it starts off
pretty. Have you watched Part 2?
Right. Yeah. I think I'm in like episode 8 of Part 2, and it's a slow beat from 1 to 7.
Yeah.
By episode 7.5 on to 8, things get pretty interesting, and they bring up the concept of Pan, right? This horned, hooved man goat or man deer or man stag element, also blending in with any kind of earthly elemental, including the green man. And we've had some synchronicities here on the property regarding something like that, to the point where it was really the first time that it ever happened. And I won't get into all the details because it's one of those synchronicity personal moments where it's asking you to pay attention. But it seems like the element of Pan is something, certainly in Hellier, they're looking down that road. And of course, eventually, in the Western world, Pan turns into the devil, right? It's the horned goat man, right? The Baphomet. So have you ever ran into that at all in your own research? Do they have a issue with Pan out in Quadra Island?
My own personal research? No, I have not. But you know what? I might be looking at that in the future, because I just got a commission from my landlord to do a green man sculpture on the property. So there might be, I don't know, might be some sigil work going there, and maybe we'll see something.
What about when
Yeah.
you're creating something, Alex? Since you're an artist, do you ever find the activity amps up when you're using your hands, especially with nature? Do you find the creative process amps up a paranormal interaction of some kind?
I think, you know what, it's got to be with the right intent, because a lot of my commissions, I just like, I got to get them done, right? It's a job, it's a career. So yes, I'm doing creative work, but I'm just like focusing on getting it done, getting it done, getting it done.
Right.
But with the one, and that's for commission work. So with commission work, I don't find that, but with personal work is where I find that. Especially, I mean, the last obvious example is the Sasquatch that I built. Like prior to the Sasquatch, we went out to Hope and had the whole apple experience, which was very, very like playful and innocuous. It was just like, didn't know really what to think of it. But it gave me the inspiration to actually build a Sasquatch. So, and then, you know, we built a Sasquatch and we had to go back out there again. And yeah, we had some very Sasquatchy type experiences. So yeah, I'm looking forward to like doing more of my own creative work in 2020, my own personal work. Yeah, and I know that when I actually put my heart and soul and passion and creative drive into these works, then things will happen.
Right. What year did you start building your own biggie? What how long did that take you, and when did you finish?
Oh, that was just last year, October.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't too long ago.
So it was around October
Took,
2018?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Me and a friend just went out there. Well, actually, Colin, the guy in the Hope Encounter, my friend. We went out there, busted our ass for 4 days, 10 hours a day, and built the Sasquatch. So yeah,
Yeah, you
it was an
finished him.
awesome experience.
Yeah, you finished him around the same time I finished Biggie. And one of the theories
Yeah,
I always
yeah.
had was there was something um, building something in effigy that maybe was an attractant. You know, it was a little bit like lathering the rootstock with peanut butter, and it
Mm-hmm.
brought
Mm-hmm.
in something. I don't know how you feel about that, but
Yes, yes.
uh-huh.
Well, okay. Yeah, I do have an extended story about this, but I will do a shortened version. When we came out in October to the site where we wanted to build the Sasquatch, we asked the property manager whether we could do it or not, whether we had permission. And he's like, "Oh, what do you want to build?" And he was like, and they were like, "Oh, we want to build a Sasquatch out on the beach there." He's like, "All right, well, as long as you didn't bring them here." And we thought it was just kind of a joke, you know, or I did, anyways. I was
Right,
just like,
right.
"Oh yeah." I was like, "Haha, yeah, no, we're not gonna bring them here." Anyways, turns out, yeah, that he, you know, the property manager is the guy who had this like insane experience years ago, and he was dead frickin' serious. Don't bring them here. So yeah.
Wow. And did you? Do you feel like you did?
Well, yeah. While I was living out there, I certainly had a few little experiences. You know, I would wake up at 4 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
To wood knocks. I gotta say wood knocks. I really always wanted to say, oh, it's just someone chopping wood.
Mm-hmm.
But really, I was the only one in the area. I really do. I was the only one in the area. And this is like acres and acres and acres. And it was coming from that direction. I was like, what? No, there's nobody chopping wood up there. I'm the only one here. And then, yeah, I would do little gifts on the site and get some interesting gifts in return. Woke up one morning to my truck door being slammed, and a little rock being placed in there that I know wasn't there before. So yeah, no tromping through the campsite or anything, but yeah,
Right.
or smells or yells or whatever. But I really don't. I want to respect a guy. I don't want to bring them there. I'm okay with it on this property where I am now.
Yeah.
But I really want to respect the property manager. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I don't want to, let's not bring them there because, yeah, you've got a job. I know if they show up there, you're gonna go. And life's going to change for you. So I really respected that, and
yeah,
like, okay, let's just shut it down over there. We'll bring it over here. So it seems to have been followed me over here, so that's fine.
Yeah. There seems to be something to the fact that it follows you around, but I mean, you heard it here first, folks. If you want to have an experience, build one of these little guys yourself. I've had some people say, I lack credibility because I'm building a statue of Bigfoot, so therefore I must be into tricking the public. But when you're transparent about being an artist and, building your own little monster workshop to build your version of them, I think when you do it with TLC, there's something going on, especially if you're near the tree line, to where they will come in and inspect your work. And, I'm sure most of the time they're laughing at my version of what's going on with, what they may look like. But I think there might be something there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to, either you coming up here or me heading down there and doing the art in the woods thing that we talked about.
Yeah, we have a couple of things we've been talking about. Not only that, but we're talking about maybe checking out some Osman territory.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. On the trail of Albert Osman. I had no idea until I heard. I think I heard. Yeah, Ron Moorhead talk about it.
Right.
On one of your Man Risa Castle episodes. I was like, hey, what? I'm like, 10-minute boat ride from where Albert Osman had his experience. Okay, well, I gotta check that out, obviously. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got that in the works, and you'll keep collecting some stories here. Now, you've told us a couple of Cliff Notes version of what you got in your back pocket, but in the future, in 2020, we'll just have you on whenever you're available, and we'll just have them as our Canadian special Strange Brew episodes, and we can even play the Canadian national anthem for you if you like before you speak. If you like, I mean, I could stand and put my hand on my heart.
Maybe the Great White North.
Okay. Got you. Yes. Yes. Okay. I'll do something unique with that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sounds good, man. No, I'm totally happy.
Well, I'm gonna turn up the saloon music here. Okay, Alex, dude. It was good talking to you, and
Yeah, you too, so.
we'll be working together here in the future. And thanks for staying up late. And gosh, I got all this yellow snow to finish here. And,
just thinking about that. Yeah, have fun with that. Erin doesn't drink beer. She doesn't want it.
No, she obviously will not be drinking my yellow snow anytime soon. So.
All right. Well, maybe go gift it outside on the altar. Right?
Okay, there you go.
All
right, man.
Think of it.
Right, have a good night, man.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, that was the show. Thank you again for listening. We will be back each and every week. You can find us here Sunday night or Monday morning. We usually upload by Monday morning once a week, and again, our live events. If you would like to be a guest on the show, shoot me an email at strangebrowradio@gmail.com, and I would love to book you. And tell me all your kooky encounters here, and maybe we can crack some yellow snow together. We have emails that come in once in a while. Sometimes people like to be anonymous, but this gal said I could read her full name, so brave one, Annette Smith. Here I go. Hey, Tobe, I wanted to tell you about an encounter when I was 4 years old. We lived in a house that was in a large city, but in 1969, it wasn't developed like it is now. The incidents took place in the fall after school, and all summer long, my older brother and I and sister in the neighborhood kid would play in a fort that was in the backyard of the house that was the house down the way. This fort was a 2-story fort with ladders to get up to the second level. On this day, my parents were finishing up packing with a couple of friends of theirs. My parents had explained to me we were moving. I really wanted to see the fort one last time, so I walked out to the back door and went to the fort. I walked up to the fort, but being so short, I wasn't looking up. So when I got right next to the fort, I looked up and shook my head when I saw 5 hair-covered beings. I was shocked and stunned. 2 of them were between 5 to 6 feet tall. The other 2 were between 3 to 4.5 feet tall, all covered with 4 to 5 inches of light reddish-brown hair. Their shoulder was not broad, but more the size of a small human. I have a hard time remembering their eyes, except they were strange. There seems to be missing time for me because the next thing I remember is being on the sidewalk and walking back to the house. I remember the feeling like to the whole world around me it seemed super large. When I got to my house, I walked into the house nervously because I didn't know who my parents were. My dad swooped me up and set me on the fire hearth. My mom gave me that loving smile. I was grateful they were my parents. After that, we moved. I know that these beings were not family, but instead they hung out together. That's what I sensed, at least. I'd always thought that they were some kind of alien because of the missing time element, and I was acting very odd afterwards. I wonder now if they were juvenile Sasquatches, and maybe they had been aware of us all summer long, and when everyone went to school, they were checking out the fort. Maybe infrasound was what caused me all these strange feelings and the missing time. Anyways, I want to tell you, for so long it's made me feel ashamed, made me feel crazy. It's changed my life. Well, Annette, don't feel crazy, don't feel ashamed. You're in good company. And, these stories here, I said kooky in the beginning. Kooky as in, well, I guess we're all kind of kooky when so many of us experience these stories. Now, you may feel kooky because you have the fortitude to talk about it, but that makes you brave in my eyes. So, bravo, Annette. And anybody else, she kind of threw the gauntlet down. Shoot me an email, just like Annette did, at strangebrowradio@gmail.com. I'd be happy to read it. And like I said, if you want to be a guest, you can do that as well. All right, that's the end of the show. Happy New Year. I hope to see you guys, as I said, at Manresa Castle coming up. If you can't, you can find us at patreon.com/Strange Bräu Radio. And thank you again. All right, that's the show. I will see you in the trees.